Welcome back, everybody. Good to see you all. Got a good joke for you. What is a good measure of electricity? That's it. Some of you guys won't get it, but that's fine. Um, Speaking of power and energy, what a segue. Today, we're going to be talking about the indices. All right, indices. Now, what are indices? Indices are just some sort of fancy way for us to write a number that has been multiplied by itself any number of times. Okay, now please wrap your head. It's not 2 times 3. It's not that. What this is think of that as that's your base. That bottom number at the bottom, that's your base, right? And then the little number on top, that's what we call the power, right? Or some people call that the indice, right? They mean the same thing. And so what it means is, it means my base gets multiplied by itself 3 times. So what this is really saying is it's saying it's 2 times 2 times 2, right? So my base is there 3 times, and that there, if I was to evaluate it, 2 times 2 times 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8. And so some people would call that number there, they'd call it the basic numeral. It might be important for one of your exercises, but it's not super important. So just remember, your most important ones, remember the base is the number on the bottom, power or indice is the number on top, and then what it all equals, that ends up being a basic numeral. Okay, so again, if I was to quickly do this, 3 to the power of 4, that's what we say. So it means 3 to the power of 4. We say, okay, well, my base is the one that gets multiplied, and how many times am I going to multiply it by itself? 4 times. So that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4. Okay, now this one's a little bit trickier. You can put it in your calculator, but I know 3 times 3 is 9, 9 times 3 is 27, and 27 times 3 is 81. So I know that there is my answer. So that's a little bit on how indices work. Okay, so you're going to have a base, you're going to have a power, and you multiply the base by as many times as the power tells you. Okay, because you've got to listen to the power. All right, now we've got an idea of what these indices are. What we need to know is we need to know what questions they'll ask. They'll ask us to expand, to simplify, or evaluate. Okay, now it's important that we know the difference. So please write this down. We've got expand, simplify, evaluate. So when they say expand, what it means is it means to write out all the multiplications. Right, I'll show you an example of it later. But when they say expand, they want you to write everything out. Simplify, when they ask you to simplify something, generally they're saying to write it using indices. So we're going to use the actual something to the power of something. Bing. And evaluate, the last one, means that we want to find the actual answer. Okay, find the value or find the answer. Now we've done all of this in the example above, but let me break it down so you can actually see what each one means. Okay, now expand. If they asked me to expand 2 to the power of 4, all it's saying is we want to write it out using all the multiplication. So I'm just going to write it out as 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. And that's 2 to the power of 4. And I'm not going to change it. I'm not going to write what that actually is. I'm just going to leave it because that is now expanded, right? We've stretched it out. We've expanded it. Okay, now if you get something a little bit more tricky, like this one, 6 to the power of 2 times 7 to the power of 4. What all I need to do now is just, okay, well, that's 6 times 6. That's 6 to the power of 2. And then 7 to the power of 4 means we multiply 7 by itself 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And we leave our answer like that. We don't have to calculate it. We just leave it in expanded form. So when you see the word expand, we're just writing it out with all the multiplications in between. Hope that makes sense. Now, what they'll ask you to do is the opposite of expand is simplify. So in this case here, they've given us, I guess, the expanded form, and they want us to bring it back into something simple. So in other words, remember, simplify means to write using indices in this case. So if I have 8 times 8 times 8, all I need to do is what's the base number that's being multiplied every time? That's 8. So I'm going to write it as 8. And how many times does it happen? 1, 2, 3, 3 times. So it's 8 to the power of 3. And that one would be your answer. Now let's look at this next one here. We've got a lot of different numbers. We've got 4 times 4 times 4 times 3 times 3 times 2. So again, very similar to the one that is right above it. We're going to look at this and we can see, okay, there's 4 times 4 times 4. So that's the same thing as 4 to the power of 3, right? Because there's 4 multiplied by itself 3 times, right? And then we look now, there's times 3 times 3. I know that that's going to be times 3 to the power of 2. And then the last one, just times 2, and you can say to the power of 1, but you kind of don't have to, because 2 to the power of 1 just means 2, which is 2. So you don't need that extra 1. Hopefully that's making sense now. So if they're asking you to simplify, you can write it out using your powers now. Okay. And the last one is evaluate. And so evaluate means that we actually have to find the actual answer. Okay, so the actual answer, the actual value or the actual answer. So here, now of course, you could put this in your calculator and it will give you the correct answer, but you do have to be a little bit careful. Let's do these ones by hand. We go 4 to the power of 2. That's 4 times 4, if I can write. That means 4 times 4, and that's in brackets. Take away 3 times 3, and that's in brackets, because it's 4 squared. Take away 3 squared, and so that just becomes 16, which is 4 times 4. Take away 3 times 3, which is 9. And that answer there, 16 take away 9 is just 7. Okay, so a very common mistake here is people would say, oh, that equals to 1 squared. It's not. Okay, so be very, very careful when you're doing these types of questions. And the best way to do it is to evaluate each bit one at a time. Okay, again, let's evaluate one at a time these things. So we've got 3. Whoops. I got that. I got it. So we've got 3 times 2 times 2. All right, that's 2 to the power of 3. Take away 4 to the power of 2, which is 4 times 4. Now we've got to be very careful here because we want to do our order of operations first. I don't know if you guys remember. I'll write it up here. Bod mass. You should have worked on it last lesson. And so what we're going to do is, do we do the minus first or do we do the multiplication first? Or multiplication or subtraction? We're going to do the multiplication first. So I'm going to go 3 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. And then I take away 4 times 4 is 16. And so I do the multiplication first. 3 times 8 is 24. Take away 16, right? And that just gives us an answer of 8. And so that would be evaluating. See how we've just got an actual answer, an actual number. That's what it means to evaluate. So remember, evaluate is get the actual number, the actual answer. Simplify means to write it in indice form, so write it using indices. And expand means to write it with all the multiplications and stretch it out. Hopefully that makes sense. And I will see you guys. Some of you guys will be watching this in class, but I'll catch you guys later. See ya. Bye-bye.